Not that my life was peachy cream, but things happened in order. My grandmother passed away, my mother passed away. I should be next, not a 2.5-year-old that suddenly goes, that was healthy. So it started to get me to look at life differently, and how can I just embrace everything with love. Like Stephen Covey's, you and I talked about that, Callum, the circle of concern, the circle of control, and the circle of influence. We spend like cause and effect, right? 95% in that circle of concern of things that are not even important. We have no control over. We're powerless over. So what can I influence? What can I control that has meaning to me? What is it I can do to help others?
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is the Unplugged Podcast number 57 with our world-leading transformational high-performance coach all the way from Florida, Debra Heslin. Welcome to the podcast, and I'll let Callum share with the world a little bit more about you in more detail.
I'm very excited to welcome Debra Heslin to the Unplugged Podcast. Debra is a transformational high-performance coach who works extensively with both individuals and corporate teams to unlock potentials, build resilience, and create lasting change. With a rich background in leadership, NLP, mindfulness, and wellness, she blends practical strategies with deep personal transformation, helping executives, leaders, and everyday people alike perform at their best while living with balance and purpose. In our conversation today, we'll dive into her journey, the powerful tools she uses in the corporate world and beyond, and how you can apply them to elevate your own performance and fulfillment. Debra, welcome to the show.
It's just awesome to be here with both of you. You know, I love you both and worked with you both and have learned from you both. So it's really my privilege.
Oh, we feel the sentiment is mutual. We love having you here in our world. You make it brighter. I think it was back in 2017 where we first met, and I think it may have been in Sydney in May.
At the university.
Yeah, where it all came together, which is which was an amazing experience. And just over those years, we had you come and join the team in Sydney. By the way, for those of you who can hear Debra's accent, she hasn't had much time to talk yet, but it's a beautiful blend of Aussie and United States. But Debra, I'll let you take the mic and share a little bit about who you are and your journey of how you got there.
Oh gosh, how much time do we have? You know, what about my journey? Would you like to ask? I just turned 70, so it's a long journey.
Wow, happy birthday and congratulations.
Happy birthday. Yeah.
How on earth? So you're obviously originally from Australia.
Yes.
That may not be obvious, but are you originally from Australia?
I am. I was
Nice.
born and raised in Perth for the first 6 years. And then my father, we moved to Cooranbong, a little town, I think it's south of Sydney, about 30 miles from Newcastle. And my dad went to college there for 4 years. So that's where I went to school for 4 years in a Christian school there. We moved back to Collie, a little town south of Perth in Western Australia. And then we moved to New Zealand, where I did my high schooling in New Zealand. Yes.
Oh, where in NZ were you?
New Plymouth, Tauranga, Wellington, and Auckland. I lived all over New Zealand. Yeah.
I
My
have
oldest
no
daughter
idea
was
about the
born
New
there,
Zealand
actually.
connection.
Yeah.
We're in Auckland.
Oh gosh, I don't remember. I just remember the steep hills when I was pregnant with her, and I couldn't even walk up them. They went forever, right by One Tree Hill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful area of Auckland. And in your 20s, did you move to the US?
I moved back to Australia when I was maybe around 19, and then came to the US when I was 23. If you really want to know, I came when I was 23, 8.5 months pregnant with my second daughter.
Wow.
And long story, we won't go down that path.
All right.
But I landed in New York, 8.5 months pregnant, not thinking about where I'm going to give birth or anything. And so I gave birth like 3 weeks later, and I didn't go back to Australia till 1983, so like another 4 years. Yeah. And funny enough, in those days, because it's the olden days, my dad took me into the city to ask to renew my visa, to extend it, because I think I came on a 3-month visa. And when I was getting it renewed, the people at the immigration said, "Oh, would you like a working visa?" And I go, "I have no plans to work. I'm just going to stay another 3 months or so." And my dad goes, "She'll take a working visa." He's like, "Shh, you'll take a working visa." So I got a working visa, and then I stayed for, oh gosh, in New York for another 27, 29 years. Yeah. Yeah. Long time.
And in that time, Deborah, tell us a little bit about your journey into the workforce over there, your journey into integrating into life in the United States. I believe you were working in the airline industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I started off, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, even when I had my 3 children. And the youngest one, I didn't want to go somewhere to work so that I had babysitters, although I did do that for a very little while. I started a desktop publishing business where their first computer was a Tandy 1000. You wouldn't even remember what those are like. They were sold at Radio Shack. I don't think Radio Shack exists anymore. And I found this program where I could input names and addresses into a database. So that was really the start of my computer business. And then we ended up doing court reporting, desktop publishing. I had, like 10 people that worked for me. And I did that for 18 years. So, yeah. And at the end of the 18 years, I kind of saw the writing on the wall. We did medical transcribing. So it was anything that could be done in an office got exported to our office. So they only paid for the work to be done rather than paying for someone to be in the office with, medical benefits, vacation, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, so I did really well at that. And then I decided when my youngest daughter, who was 20, was in her second year of college, I said, "I've always wanted to be a flight attendant." And, I was too short. My hair too curly. I was 5'1". In Australia, the first time on TAA, was it TAA Australia or ANA, Ansett A?
Ansett. Oh, that was Ansett. Yeah.
Ansett,
Way back, right? Going from Sydney to Perth, I was like, I want to be a flight attendant. So I applied to this airline called JetBlue. It was a startup airline, and it was in the beginning of 2001. And I wasn't there very long before I ended up becoming it was a process, but I became the general manager of John F. Kennedy Airport. So, yeah, so it was a big jump. Eventually I woke up in the middle of the night and said, how did this little Australian get this job and what am I doing? So, yeah.
And around what was that, around 2000 or thereabouts?
2001. So I was actually flying September 11th. Yeah, which is another long story. Let me lower my hand. How do I do that?
It's all good.
I don't know how it raised.
No, that's all good.
It's all good. Thank you. Yeah. So from 2001, I actually met my husband on the plane. He was a passenger on the plane. And then after I was in I did simultaneously when I was in the airline industry, caught up in a lot of anxiety, stress. It's a business that goes 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. There's no breaks, and it's John F. Kennedy. There was one time I slept at the airport basically for 3 weeks because of the snowstorms. And so it was a lot. And I wasn't seeing my family. I had just gotten married. So I was working on ways to handle stress and anxiety. And I wasn't sure how to manage it. I was always into physical fitness. I've rock climbed pretty much all over the United States. triathlons. I've ridden my bicycle from San Fran to LA. I've done lots of extreme stuff, but I didn't know how to calm down the stresses if I wasn't working out. So I found yoga, and that started my back to my spiritual journey, if you want to put it that way, where in the yoga room I could feel very calm. And then how did I transport that calmness out into the real world? That was the trick. How do I do this out here? I can't go into yoga poses while I'm at John F. Kennedy, while I'm in the middle of a big meeting and everything like that. So I started to then study the mind-body experience and how can we actually, get that peace within, no matter what is happening in our environment around us. So my daughter always says, my oldest daughter, no matter what you do, Mom, you have to go to the nth degree. You don't just rock climb in a gym. You have to rock climb the 50 classics of the United States.
I second that. I second that. It's one of the things that's always stood out for me. Besides just always you always having a warmth and a great like nature was your energy, and I think when we first met and you told me your age, I just couldn't fathom it or believe it, because like you would run rings around even the fittest and healthiest and youngest guys and girls in the room. So when you talked about the mind body connection, you said that you couldn't use the yoga poses in public or at the airport. And
I have.
Yeah, I bet. I'm curious as to like what was like the next kind of step for you? Did you discover NLP right away, or was there
Not right away.
Yeah.
Not right away. Yeah. So that's such a good question. So I don't remember what year it was. It could have been 2000. It's more than 10 years ago. So maybe 2011, something like that. Actually, it was just after I got married. So I'd say around 2011. And I wanted to understand the mind-body connection. So I started looking for coaching programs where I could dig into it deeper and really figure out, because exercising, I didn't cry when I was working out. I wanted to understand why I could cry in a yoga room, right? Why I could also feel joyful, where my emotions were released and kind of in a safe way. So that's why I wanted to understand it more. So the more that I studied, the more I realized I didn't know. So I took my first coaching training that I took was way back then, and it cost me, I think it was $10,000 or $12,000. This is way back then. And I got two things out of that training. You always get value no matter what, right?
No matter what.
And I took two things out of that training that led me then to the next training, to the next training. And that one year, I did a training every single month. So I ended up becoming one of Jack Canfield's high performance trainers. So who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. And it was at his training that he said to me, he was talking about his E+R=O, which is cause and effect. And I asked him a question. He said, Debra, that's NLP. Don't you? NLP, it's basic. I was like everyone else, what's NLP? So that's when I started exploring. So this was maybe about May of that year. And so I booked my NLP training for December, but I took different certifications from different companies every month up to my NLP in December. And I remember saying to myself, I don't even want to go. I've got so much certifications now. I'm totally fine. I was already coaching. My business was doing well. Most of them were from the airline industry going, Deb, what are you doing? We want whatever you're doing. You look so less stressed, et cetera, et cetera. And I went to Vegas because my dad was living there at the time. And I said, well, at least I can see my dad and my stepmom. I don't have to go to the training. And I showed up and I never looked back from NLP. Yeah. I left that training. I ended up signing up for the master practitioner, which I think was in the March. And then, or maybe it was in the summer. And then the trainer's training was too far away. So that's when I went to Australia and met both of you, which was in October, I think, if I remember rightly.
October 17.
Yeah. So, and I've done so many other
And
certifications as well.
so where do you funnel your energy now? Is there an ideal client that you work with, or how did, I guess, you had all these certificates, you had a whole wall of certificates. I guess one
They're in a shoebox.
challenge that a lot of coaches have.
That's where mine are.
Yeah, they're in a shoebox.
Is there a lag, or can you hear me okay?
No, you're good.
There's a slight delay, but it's fine. It's fine. You're with it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, cool. So I was just saying, you have a wall full of certificates. You could literally work with anyone for anything. How did you decide who you would like to work with and help the most?
Such a great question, Connor. So in the beginning, I worked with anybody and everybody, right? I took on anybody and was very eager to be able to help people that sometimes didn't even want the help. And I think that, throughout the years, I've learned, I interview them and let them interview me. All my clients are referrals. So that's how I get them, is from somebody that's done the work. But I interview them to see if it's somebody that really wants to be a high performer. They're already achieving and they just want to go to that next level with whatever it is, kind of like you're working with somebody that's like you, if that makes sense, and it's even led me to lots of other areas of my life that I wish I didn't have the experience in, but I'm able to do that now because I've experienced so many of those things myself. Does that make sense? So I love corporate people. I do a lot of corporate work all over the world now with Zoom, which is fabulous because that's been really helpful. Companies in Israel, France. I don't speak French, but yeah.
We've known for a very long time that these skills are being implemented in the corporate arena, and we've definitely seen more of it, publicly in the high performance sporting arena. We know people, we've trained people that are doing this type of work. With the corporates, though, it kind of needs to be sometimes rebranded or painted in a different light. Are you finding that now there's a more openness to this? Is there people more willing to use it, or obviously it's been used for a long time, but are they more comfortable with saying, "Hey, I'm seeing a high performance coach to help me with my performance"? Are they more willing to share that?
So I've got CEO clients that also I work with their employees as well. So they've done the work with me. One person in particular started with me when he was 30, and I believe he's just turned 39 or 38 now. So it's been like 8 years solid. I am the coach for his company as well. So his employees have access to me if anything's going on. And what they love is that not everybody uses it, and I don't want everybody to use it in the company, right? It's those that want to do something extra that they might not be seeing, and then they don't necessarily want to go to someone in HR about anything. I'm completely non-biased. So I'm an outside resource.
You're like Wendy Rhodes from Billions. Have you seen that?
Yeah, that Wendy. Just call me Wendy. One law firm many years ago, big law firm in South Florida. They hired me, and they said the two partners said to me, "Shall we call me Wendy?" And I said, "Only if you pay me the billions, like she does."
Yeah, if you pay me.
Right? Please,
That's
you
so
could
fun.
call me Wendy. You could call me anything if I,
That's true.
it's no worries.
It struck me when I first watched that it had broken into the mainstream, because what she was doing, even in the short clips that they showed of what she was doing, it wasn't traditional psychology, because it was
Right.
it was happening too quick to be talk therapy. She was doing submodalities change work or anchoring and things like that. So that's when I started to, I think that was in 2018. I was on a flight to the States to deliver a training in Las Vegas, and I watched this for the very first time, and I'm like, she's not doing the traditional talk therapy.
No, that's for sure.
she's doing rapid change work, which is only kind of attributed to hypnosis and NLP. So that was when I kind of started to see it break out into the open. And you would know Dominic Bertoncini, who he's been on the podcast before. He he had clients go on the Joe Rogan podcast and talk about doing timeline therapy with him and doing NLP with him and going on a winning streak after they did that. And I was like, oh, okay. This stuff's now hitting the mainstream. So I was curious as to, you spoke about the CEO working with you and now his team and his employees.
Yeah.
How important is that? Because often, CEOs just want you to work with their employees, but they're the bus driver and the
That's
company
such a good question.
goes to where they want to be. Like, what order do you do that in? Because
I've done it both ways. So in other words, when the CEO is involved, it's such a difference. Where they're there, sometimes I do the end of the year retreats that they have where the CEO is there and then the whole team is there, and they'll have me for a workshop for like 4 hours or so, usually before lunch, because after lunch they're all, they're ready for the day to end, so to speak. But when the CEO has a buy-in, it's a huge difference. I did for a large medical company in New York, really large medical company in New York, where the head wasn't the CEO, because they had 10,000 employees. But it was the head of that department who had hired me, and she didn't participate in anything. And it made a big difference. However, I still so with them, what I did a workshop every 3 months. So it was 4 times a year. And then I stayed there during that week to coach the people in the teams, right? So they got individual coaching. And one time I did a values alignment for that department, tying into the corporate values, the team leader, the senior VP's values, and then their individual. They're all directors. It wasn't like they were just pencil pushers, so to speak. Not that anything's wrong with that. But it was lining up their values. And out of that meeting, there were 35 of them. 2 of them ended up resigning. They realized, and she was happy about it. So, because they realized this was not the job for them. And they came in and said to me, you've made me realize that I cannot align my values with my role. Yeah.
Every single time without fail, when we do a values alignment with teams, whether it happens straight away or a week or 2 after, that alignment process always pushes somebody out that's not aligned with
and it's a good thing, when that happens.
For everybody, or even the person that leads,
exactly.
I believe. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I was
You
going
can
to say,
actually feel the energy.
100%. And, because I would go back there every 3 months. So, and spend the week there, which was fantastic. So I'd have an office of where people were able to book their appointments to come in for either half an hour, 45 minutes, or 60 minutes of their own individual coaching. And so what was great about it was completely confidential unless there was drugs and alcohol or harming to self, and they knew prior to that conversation. So it was super because I wasn't inside the company. It was like an outside source. And my role in JetBlue, I would have done anything to have had that assistance in my role because I was so stuck in here. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to get rid of some of that craziness that was going on in my mental chaos. Yeah.
Yeah, and the chaos of
go ahead.
Yeah, no. Well, I'll come back to that, but like the mental chaos is sometimes a reflection of the environmental chaos that happens as well. And I'm not talking about the terminal or in the airport itself. I'm talking about the culture of the team and the values of the team, the behaviors, the beliefs, the values of everybody.
Yes,
that can really have a huge impact, and I don't think people are as aware as they could be around that either, because it's so just the human condition allows us to get so I guess acclimatized to a certain environment and accept the things of that environment as being just the way that it is.
exactly.
Rather than
That's
going,
the way it
wait a
is.
second, like this could be shifted and different. And it's amazing that the values work, how easily it can shift that, not just the mental state, the neurology, the beliefs and the attitudes and the behaviors, but also shift the culture of the team and shift the environment. And who gets positively impacted by that? It's not just the internal team, it's everyone, the customers that relate to that team as
100%.
well, and I think that's how this work has that ripple effect outwardly to the rest of the world as well.
Yeah. It's sad when some of those energies are not working towards everybody winning, a win-win situation, rather than I win, you lose, or I'm just going to show up, my paycheck's coming on this date and this date, and it's just a job, rather than, and that's kind of what it ended up becoming for me. I was a high-performing leader that ended up resigning. I was considered a high-performing leader. And I was like, how am I a high-performing leader when I seem to be riddled with all this anxiety? And I want to make these changes, and I've got no one that I can really bounce ideas off because I was afraid they were wrong, or just so many things. But I want to say something when you were talking about the CEOs. There was one incredible man. He was 77 years old. So this is about 4 years ago now. So he's in his early 80s. And he came to me, not only just with his work, to be a better man at 77, right?
Wow.
High performing. I mean, he was close to being a billionaire. Money was not the issue with him, but he wanted to be a better man, a better boss. He was still working. He'd bought another business, a better husband, a better father, a better friend, just in every way. And I'll share with you, in one of these conversations that we were having, he said to me, the manager he had a resort, at this resort, I'm so mad at him. I'm like ready to fire him from what happened with X. And he had a text from the manager, and this is what he wanted to fire him about. So using NLP, I said to him, tell me exactly what was said in the text, and we were on Zoom, and I wrote it on my little whiteboard, exactly what was there. And from Pratt, I ended up showing him he really should stop beating his wife, right? And I wrote out that sentence. I said, so what does this make you feel when you hear this? I taught him about presuppositions. And he said, oh, low-life slob should be shot, right, et cetera, that we all say. And so I said to him, I said, no, we don't know what sort of beating he was doing. I said, what if they were playing tennis?
Yeah.
Right? What if they were playing a board game? And so we broke down his sentence, what was said he was reading from what the manager said, because I don't presuppose what you're saying was a distortion, right?
Yeah.
And he called me up later. The reason why I say it is because 77 years of age, wanted to be a better man, listened to that conversation about what it could be, asked questions, and it was nothing what he was distorting, mind reading in what was said,
Yeah.
And those things, he used it with all of his employees after that. And it was just a simple thing that we learned in practitioner with NLP. Doesn't have to be the big techniques.
No, I agree.
Do you know what
I
I
agree.
mean?
I agree.
Right?
The basics of prac, people don't realize
Yeah.
the actual power of it because
How-
it goes so quickly in 7 days. But when you start to do exercises like you just demonstrated, then you start to see the power in them, and that's up to this person that learns it to go out and actually experiment with
Yeah.
those
For
things. What actually caught me then is just we do so much communicating now through text message and messages on Messenger and WhatsApp, and I'm very guilty of this because I feel like it allows me to talk to so many more people
Right.
at once. But what we miss is all of the emotive cues that let us know the tone of the message, let us know more deeply around how the person was feeling about it, what they were thinking about it, and what they're going to do because of it. And what that does is those you said deletions, distortions, and generalizations that are made just skyrocket through the roof. They're already high when you're talking to people face to face like we are now, but when you're doing it through text message, I had a silly thing that happened like 10 years ago when, I read a text message from a brother, and same deal. I got instantly annoyed at him. But then when we spoke about it on the phone, it was like so simple and basic, and my mum refuses to text about things because she feels that, phone conversation conveys the meaning way better. So I think having that awareness, and it is about awareness, having that awareness to discover what it is. And even if you're taking it some way, giving the person the benefit of the doubt to find out, is this just my lens, or is this the intent and purpose of the way that they were conveying it in the first place? And, 9 times out of 10, and I'd probably say 10 times out of 10, it's not. So, yeah, that's really cool that you did that with him at 77, and that he was willing
ask questions around it. We don't know unless we ask questions and, ask more around it. So the reason why I said that is like, I love working with people that he didn't just fire that man. He said, let's have a discussion around it, Deb. What am I missing here? And just some very simple tool changed the whole outcome, the whole decision. Yeah.
It also, I can't remember where I picked up this rule of thumb, but I learned it a while ago, and that is not to respond when you're feeling plugged in emotionally yourself.
Yeah.
Hi there, this is Connor and Callum from Connect Coaching. Hope you are enjoying the Unplugged podcast. Nothing lights us up more than seeing businesses thrive, especially in uncertain times. We have 32 combined years of doing nothing but mentoring and training businesses from around the globe in order to increase their revenue and thrive in uncertain times. So what we would like to do is share with you a little bit about what we've discovered over the last 32 years.
We've created this amazing business model called the Forever Business Model, and we want to give it to you for free. All you need to do is jump down into the description below. There's a link there called Steal Our Forever Business Model. Click on the link. There's a 9-minute video that you can watch where we unpack everything you need to know to implement it in your business right away.
Because I feel that I'm sure there's a science behind it, but there is intention behind your words. Even if you flower your words up, people can feel the intention behind them. And with that business owner that you mentioned before, in the old days, he probably would have responded with a crack of the whip in some way, shape or form, with a bit of venom behind the words that he was using. And that one little process that you showed him, he was able to step back and almost disassociate for 1 second to analyze it instead of take on the emotion that he felt was coming his way. And I think that's a skill in and of itself. And if you're going to be managing people, if you're going to be in a position where you are responsible for a team, you have to be the one that doesn't buy into everyone's emotional drama, because they have their own issues in their life, and they come to you almost as the person. You're almost a coach without being a coach. You're called a manager, but people, generally speaking, look up to you as the person who's more resourceful than they are. So it's almost like they feel that the door is open for them to vent a little to you because they see you as someone who can handle more as such. But in theory, not every manager can. In theory, they don't have the resources in order to absorb is the wrong word, but they don't have the resources in order to communicate back with an employee who is feeling emotional, maybe from another area of their life, but projecting it out in this one scenario in the business.
Yeah, exactly. You taught me that. You taught me.
I used to have a manager who was even more unresourceful than the team, and you can see it.
Was one of my reasons for resigning at JetBlue. Exactly. So, and that's why I wished I'd had the tools that I have now back then. Maybe I would have felt like I had a choice instead of like, I'm done with this. I am over the stresses. I would have been remember in Master Prac, we talk about, right, the nervous system and the cup is bumping up against, the environment, right? Our coping mechanisms. I don't want to cope. I want to thrive, right? So what can I do instead of what I'm doing so that I can thrive and build this so big that I'm going to have a warehouse of resources instead of a cup? A cup can be my excuses. Because we can
I've
certainly have them.
I've found that the reason why emotions rise and they get higher and higher and more intense is our inability to be able to effectively articulate how we're feeling in a way that we feel understood.
Yeah.
And in NLP, we know that the meaning is, the meaning of a conversation is the response that we get. So the more clearly we're able to articulate how we're feeling, we get better responses from people. So, and then what I find, I don't know about you guys, but like the intensity of the emotion starts to dissipate and oftentimes disappear when you're able to fully and clearly articulate what's going on and occurring for you. And before I'd learned the skills of NLP, there was no way that I could articulate. I still have trouble now, but there was no way that I would. And my emotional state was much more intense because of that. So, I feel like, we've said this countless times, but it should be taught in schools. It should be a part of every leadership program. It should be a part of becoming a manager, to go through that process.
And it should be taught, like, even when we ask somebody, because you brought up stuff just then with me, even with, what's been going on in my life in the last couple of years, even when somebody asks, how are you? Are you really wanting to know? Or is it just what we do without listening to what the other person, what's going on right now? Where are you at? Sometimes the how are you, it can be so generalized. Do you know what I'm saying? That it's like, do you really want to hear how the person is, or is it just, a conversation?
I said that to
my
sometimes on a Monday morning. I said it to Connor sometimes on a Monday.
Oh, you really want to know?
You want the real story? You want me just to BS you?
Yeah.
But now that you brought it
I
up,
love that. Yeah.
now that you brought it up, beyond the work you do in the corporate arena, you have had an incredibly significant event happen in your life. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. 2 years ago, you lost your beautiful Mallory, your granddaughter, who I think at the time was roughly around 2 years old.
2.5.
Yeah, and I remember that clearly because my daughter was maybe just a little bit younger than her. And it's an event that you wouldn't wish on anybody.
Nope.
But I feel through that process, you've led your community and your audience a different way, and even me, watching your transformation through that period, even though it was like painful for me to like read your posts and painful for me to like look at it. I almost forced myself to just to sort of go through it with you to understand what that was like. I've lost people close to me in my life. I lost my father when I was 25, but there's something, like you said earlier before we came on air, where life happens in the wrong order. And you've been an incredible leader, and so is your daughter, by the way, an incredible leader through this period. Can you speak to that a little bit and just share with people as much as you feel comfortable with sharing, but also like how you've taken, these skills from a different context and utilized them inside of your family to help and support everybody there?
Yeah, I'm happy to share. I think grief is something that we often don't embrace enough. A lot of us, including me, we want to stay away from it. We don't want to feel the pain, right? Even if we think about NLP, we're here with the pain, but we want to go over to, to what it is we want to feel and to have instead. So just very quickly, Mallory was my youngest grandchild at 2.5 years of age. She was never sick in her life. She was the happiest little child, filled with tons and tons of love. And I had just finished teaching a 7-day NLP practitioner training. It had just signed off from Zoom. And my daughter called to say that she had a fever and she was in the hospital. This was on the Monday. And so, I ended up flying to Tennessee because I live in Florida, flew to Tennessee. The rest of our family came and I saw her in the hospital, which was not a pleasant sight. She died of a bacterial infection and she passed away so this was the Monday night. She passed away on the Wednesday morning. So she was in the hospital for like 36 hours. And it was a big shock to all of us. What ended up happening, my daughter actually led the way. There's often the leader of the pack. So the circle of grief is, the person at the closest circle is the one that you lean into. So my daughter, her husband, and their children were the closest circle. Outside of that circle is me, the grandparents. Then outside of that is the aunts and the uncles, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's friends and distant family members and acquaintances and things like that. And the people on the outside of the circle are the ones that lean in to the closest circle. And I say that for a couple of reasons. My daughter, I let out a piercing scream that my daughter was, I don't know how she knew to not let the brother and sister know in front of us family members. She knew how I would respond because of something else that happened many, many years ago, how my instant response is just to scream and fall to my knees, right? So she didn't want the children to be able to experience that. And all of my other daughters were there with me. And, and then we had to let the other family members know. And then she went to the school to pick up the children. But my daughter, from that moment in the hospital, she feels like God gave her a path of this way or that way. They were going to amputate her legs and her arms because all of her organs had stopped working. So she passed away before any of that happened. But my daughter saw a path of pain and suffering, and she saw a path of light and remembering Mallory with love. And God made the decision. And that moment on, my daughter said to all of us, we will only speak and handle everything with love. So that was easy for me to adopt right away because it's a lot with the work I do, and then putting it into practice all the time. When I say all the time, a universal, it's not possible to do all the time, right? So embracing for me, writing helps me. My daughter, it obviously helps her because she's written a book on, grief the right way. But I have a new understanding. I didn't before. My life was, I've actually just written a book, guys, and it's hopefully being published in a couple of weeks. It's on beliefs and my story from a little girl from Australia with different things that I've learned, tools and techniques. Not that my life was peachy cream, but things happened in order. My grandmother passed away, my mother passed away. I should be next. Not a 2.5-year-old that suddenly goes, that was healthy, So it started to get me to look at life differently. And how can I just embrace everything with love? Kind of like Stephen Covey's, you and I talked about that, Callum, the circle of concern, the circle of control, and the circle of influence. We spend like cause and effect, right? 95% in that circle of concern of things that are not even important. We have no control over. We're powerless over. So what can I influence? What can I control that has meaning to me? What is it I can do to help others? I joined 2 churches. I go to one here. I now pray. I never thought I'd go back to Bible studies. I was brought up a minister's daughter and, hated the church, blamed the church for everything. It's not about that. It's with grace and love. No matter if you're not Christian, I'm not saying that. It's whatever you do to find that everything's love or fear, to find that love and that good in anything. If we can find it in the passing of that beautiful little girl, I think you don't think for moments that I don't get angry. Sometimes when people say to me, I'm so sorry, I can't imagine, I'm glad you can't. I'm really happy that you can't imagine. I don't want you to. And then there are times like, I wouldn't mind for a few seconds. And so you start bullshitting about the other stuff. You know what I mean? But that doesn't stay. It only love is allowed in our heart. If that makes sense.
It does make sense. And I think that, as you go through those major life events, things like faith become quite obvious as the path, because without it, you can become nihilistic, apathetic. You can become like resentful and bitter about life. And one of the key ingredients that I've seen across, to kind of map it back across to business and corporate, the people that I admire and I aspire to be more like, they have a strong faith in God, whatever denomination or whatever creed it is for them. It doesn't really matter to me, but they all have that faith. And I told you before we jumped on that my daughter's started to go to a Christian school, and I've started taking them to church on the Sunday to be a part of that journey with them, to have that strong spiritual base. And I'm saying that and laughing because like the message that day when I took her to church was very much for me. I was feeling incredibly stressed at the time, and I'm not trying to assimilate that to your journey in any way, shape, or form. More speaking to the faith part of it. The minister or the pastor got up on stage and he said, show me your stress levels and I'll show you your faith levels. And I've always identified myself as being quite spiritual and having a lot of faith and trust in God, but I was the most stressed that I'd been or felt since I could remember. And I instantly felt this like pulse of release as I got it. Like I got it instantly, and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm having no faith right now. I have no faith. And that, I guess you said it perfectly, the grace and the love that comes with that allows you to move mountains, and it allows you to go through these valleys of darkness that you went through. And losing my dad at 25, all of a sudden too, it was a sudden thing. He was my hero. He was my everything. There is, like you said, those two paths, not just with the decisions that need to be made, but with how you choose to live your life from that point forward.
Yep. You have the choice after that. I heard a quote. It's really funny. Like, there's no coincidences, right? I forgot about this actually, but I heard this quote in that group, and I'll tell you about that group in a second, that, human beings can live 40 days without food, 3 days without water, but not a moment without hope. And I think having a faith that there is hope, we will see our family again, is so much better than that is the end. So I embrace that. My husband comes to church with me, not all the time, but he comes. He's very supportive. He saw me get baptized again. My son-in-law actually baptized me again. Baptized me, they all got baptized as well. But funny enough, I had joined, because I love learning, right? I had joined this group 18 months prior to Mallory's passing without it's another coaching group. It was another program that wanted to learn about and how they did it. This person was incredible. And I joined, there's like 130 people in it, and we'd meet 3 times a week. It's a pastoral group. 95% of them were ministers and pastors. So and there's me, that group, when they found out about Mallory, because it was the same day that I had gotten out, that's what happened. I got out of my NLP training and I was in this group, and I had to get out of the group because my daughter had called. That whole group, over 100 of them, all intense Zoom and prayed for, God to look after our family. And didn't save Mallory, but, prayer doesn't always, it's funny too, that, Callum and Connor, that we often pray for God, please help me with this, or please help me with this. When do we ever say, thank you for guiding me in the direction? Thank you. Is there anything I can do for you?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How would you like to be dating? How would you like to be with your wives? And all your wives ever ask you is, can you give me this? Can you give me this? I need this from you. I want this from you. I want this from you. But they never say, what can I do for you?
Yeah.
We don't do that when, and it's humbled me a lot, if that makes sense. It's
Does.
humbled a lot. Yeah.
Is this where gratitude comes in, Deborah, do you feel?
Yes, I do. I do feel gratitude.
And
comes in.
HeartMath, from
Yeah.
what I know about HeartMath, I believe there's an amount of gratitude gratitude is very strong in the teachings of HeartMath. And
Very. Yeah.
For the uninitiated, because I'm definitely uninitiated in that heart math, and I know that you've been like really diving deep into it lately. Could you give us a bit of a
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
It's all science between the heart and the brain, and which is another thing I love, because the heart, if you think about it, should be filled with love and compassion and kindness and warmth and understanding, kindness, gratitude, all of those things. And the heart was developed in the womb much before the brain was developed. So the heart sends more signals to the brain than the other way around. So when we think about NLP and we're changing our thought process, changing this, if we go to our heart first and we anchor in or activate so that we can anchor in feelings of kindness, compassion, love, gratitude, warmth, whatever it is we want to show up as our authentic self with, not our authentic self with anger, frustration, right? We're authentically angry, we're authentically sad, we're authentically frustrated, right? No, we want to show up as our authentic person with who we really want and need to be. So when you activate that in your body through your heart, it will send a signal up to the amygdala, which goes immediately to your frontal lobe, where you make your decision, right? And so therefore you're making a decision from what they call a coherent state, rather than a irregular, overreactive, emotional state. It calms down the nervous system. It's like getting your own cocktail of good hormones in your body. It produces your I don't know what I would have done without that during this time, to be able to activate love in your heart, Deborah. Radiate it to yourself, radiate it to others. I don't know how I would have gotten through, but in doing that. So I do a lot of this with corporations. I teach them how to. I have my little machine that I put on a big screen where they try to get somebody irritable and they're breathing in a heart-centered, coherent rhythm, and you can actually watch the heart rhythms go what they call coherent, because the person is activating signals from the heart. So it's very convincing to people when they're in those corporate environments to see what happens with the stress and what happens when you're able to activate those. I've had so many experiences that I wished I'd had that when I was in corporate, even just in general. With it today at the supermarket, this is just a little thing. At the supermarket, I'm online, and this little old lady is talking and talking and talking and, not paying for her thing. And then the checkout girl looks at me and goes, it's fine. It's fine. Right. And then the little old lady realized that, she was holding up the line, and she looked at me. She said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You've got all your things. I said, it's okay. A few minutes of life for you to do this is in my realm, that would never aggravate me anymore. Right? Are you kidding? 3 or 4 minutes?
So
what we would do to have 3 or 4 minutes back. You know what I mean?
yeah. So have you found that from my limited understanding of HeartMath, one of our clients is also a HeartMath trainer, and she said that there's so many scientific studies that
Yes.
HeartMath Institute have done. Has that helped with the acceptance of HeartMath
Yes.
in the corporate world as such?
100%. Because
Yeah.
there's so many scientific studies. It's used in schools, it's used with the military. And in fact, I just got asked, I told Callum prior to us getting on, the US Army Reserves have reached out to me to do a workshop for the reserves in Reno and in Las Vegas. So yeah, so they chose me, a little Australian, not in the US military, right? So I've had conversation, and it's all HeartMath. So it would be 4 days of training along those techniques, because it's used in the military, Navy SEALs, baseball players, first responders. There's so many stories of the different response, because
And would they
you're
use
able
it to keep more resourceful during high stress
correct.
periods? Is
Yes.
that what it's for? Okay.
It's not, yes. So in high alert situations, you're still in a state of high alert, but inside you're able to calm your nervous system down so that you can see what needs to be done out here in the environment. If you're responding from this, you're not only not useful to yourself, you're not useful to what's going on. And there's so many studies of where, they've had firefighters that have practiced these techniques, have gone into burning buildings, and in those moments bring in their coherent state and have found the escape to get out, because their alertness is at a
So
higher rate.
does it help people stay in the parasympathetic nervous system
Great
state?
question, Connor. So that's a really good question. So the parasympathetic nervous system, we have the sympathetic, the high heart rate, right? And we have the parasympathetic, the low heart rate. So think about this. The answer is yes. And the parasympathetic, when you have a low heart rate, you can also be depressed.
Mm.
You can be sad,
Mm.
right? So
Mm.
with HeartMath, they get you to recognize there's a grid. What side of the grid you are on? Are you in the parasympathetic producing cortisol, or are you in the parasympathetic producing DHEA, which is the cocktail of the good hormones? Cortisol is not bad. It is bad if it stays in your system for too long, and what happens is people go through all these different emotions, whether it's in the sympathetic or the parasympathetic. On the depleting side, we call them major negative emotions, but there's lots of depleting emotions. There's a plethora of them that we can have. And the cortisol can stay in your body for basically, you just reproduce it constantly. We need it to get up in the morning. When Callum was saying about my energy, I need it to do X and do my workout and, go on a run or climb a mountain, whatever that is. But we don't need it to stay in us, depleting us. And that's what the frustration, the anger. So it's very helpful people love the science behind it. And I show them what it does, brain cell death, your hair, your skin, your teeth, your nails, everything. All your major organs, it affects in your body. So it excites me because I want to feel good despite what's happened to us. I don't want to sink away and I'm no good to my family. My family wants and loves me, having me around, So yeah, it's quite fascinating. I never thought I'd like science and math, and now I love it. Yeah. So did I answer your question?
Yeah. Look, I've as you know, we've been in this field for quite some time, and HeartMath, I've seen the rise and the rise of HeartMath, I guess, the popularity of HeartMath come up, and from what I learned about it, I found it quite intriguing. I just wasn't too sure how it worked and the applications of it And when you brought to the table that you're potentially working with the reserves in Reno and Vegas, I went, okay, so that would probably be in high alert situations. How would HeartMath, where would the benefits of HeartMath be for that? So that's quite exciting. And it's exciting that large organizations like that are seeing value in the mind-body connection and the processes and techniques that can bring those two closer together for their teams. And then you have the corporate side. I mean, imagine going into a meeting where you're highly emotional for one reason or another, and you need to articulate your points. That can be a very, very difficult situation if all you're seeing is red, or all you're feeling is anxiety, or all you're feeling is overwhelmed, or imposters, feeling like you're an imposter and you shouldn't be there in the first place. That would absolutely curb the effectiveness of your ability to influence, the congruency and conviction in your words, and it will put you back at a place, a resting place, I guess, where you are able to see a full 360 around you energetically and have access to all your words when you need them.
Well, it's like you're
Really,
able, what I love about it, you're able to, we in NLP, we call it, we get a new strategy, and in HeartMath, they call it, you get a new baseline. So your baseline is here, you're reacting, you respond, well, I call it reacting, respond, you take a breath. You're reacting this way all the time, and this is your baseline that you've built. So the more you practice the very simple tools such as a shift and reset, or quick coherence, so you can get into a quick coherent state, the more you're going to build your baseline up to a higher level, and you're going to be so less reactionary. You're in charge of your response. So it's changed me with everything that I do. So my local church has asked me to talk about it too, by the way. Yeah, so I'm
That's really
excited.
cool that they're open to that
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, they are. They're really awesome. But yeah, it's helped me tremendously. It's helped my husband with certain things that pop up. Yeah.
You mentioned a book that's coming out.
Wow.
Tell us about it. What is it about?
It's beliefs.
When does
It's
it come
called
out? When
Beliefs.
can people get a hold of it?
Yeah, I'm actually excited about it. It's called Decide to Believe, and they're designing the cover right now. So hopefully it'll be out in a couple of weeks. It really is everything that we know. We've learned with NLP, my HeartMath tools, some other stuff that I've learned as well. And it's a little bit about me as a little girl, how I remember adopting this first belief that I got, how that affected certain things in my life, holding on to that belief, how changing that belief did other things. And then I tell client stories as well in each chapter along the way. So you can really pick up any chapter. And then there's little tools at the end of the chapter on what to do in those moments. So it's very simple read. I like simple. It's the only way I learn and understand. So it's a quick read, but yeah, I'm proud
so
of it because
it's a simple read, but it sounds like there are actionable steps people can take in
yes,
order to make
yeah,
improvements to their life.
it's story actions that you can do in those moments. Yeah. So it's called Decide to Believe, and yeah,
So
I wanted to do it for quite
I
a
like
while, so finally did it.
And is there a release date?
Probably 2 weeks. I'm actually waiting for the cover design to get done, and one other thing that I'm waiting on. It's all edited, so it's all ready to go. So I would say within 2
Ready
weeks
to
it'll
go.
be out. Yeah.
And where can people
Okay.
find you? Where can they find the book? And by the time this goes live on YouTube, I'd love to have a link for it down the bottom of the
Okay. All right.
comment
Cool.
space.
Cool.
If you're watching it straight away, there will be a link there shortly.
Okay.
How can
I
people
guess
get in
the
contact
easiest
with you,
way.
Debra?
My website is right there, or Facebook even. I'm on Facebook, Debra Heslin, and it's Debra Heslin Wellness for my website. And yeah, I'm actually doing a HeartMath course. I wasn't going to say anything about it. I didn't think
Yeah.
about it.
No,
I'm doing one
everyone
in
should do a
November.
HeartMath course. Absolutely.
In November, I think. Not sure of the dates, but it's 10 hours. So it's done 5 hours one day and 5 hours the next.
So, that's handy. That's over 2 days. Is that online or is that live in Florida?
It's live on Zoom. Yeah.
Okay,
I
cool.
do everything on virtual now because people are spread out everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice work. So DebraHeslinWellness.com. We'll put that in the comments of this feed on Facebook. And if they want to get on your database as such so that they can be first to receive confirmation that the book's been released, they can, I guess, fill out a form on your website.
They could just email me. There's actually a thing that stay in touch, I think it says, or contact me. You know, you can email me and I'll send out something soon about the book. I was going to just use the book mostly for workshops and when I do podcasts for people if they want a copy of the book and stuff. But I'm proud of it. It's interesting. So I decided to believe in myself. They still pop up, those beliefs, right? Yeah.
They do.
They do.
Yeah.
Right.
Deborah, thanks for being so open and sharing so much with us today. And thank you for being such a great support of both Connor and I. You always get behind us in everything that we do. We're really grateful for that.
I always will.
Thank you.
Love it. Well,
Thank you.
Deborah. Hi there, this is Connor and Callum from Connect Coaching. Hope you are enjoying the Unplugged podcast. Nothing lights us up more than seeing businesses thrive, especially in uncertain times. We have 32 combined years of doing nothing but mentoring and training businesses from around the globe in order to increase their revenue and thrive in uncertain times. So what we would like to do is share with you a little bit about what we've discovered over the last 32 years.
We've created this amazing business model called the Forever Business Model, and we want to give it to you for free. All you need to do is jump down into the description below. There's a link there called Steal Our Forever Business Model. Click on the link. There's a 9-minute video that you can watch where we unpack everything you need to know to implement it in your business right away.